Hello everyone, it's Matt here and welcome to the October vlog. The channel's been a bit quiet, so I thought it is now time to ramp up and give some little news tidbits and other bits and pieces about an update. As many of you know, Brick Metal Railroader has revealed their OcTRAINber contest, and you know it's normally revealed towards the end of September, and this year it's technical challenge. We have to build something that is rail related, but can't be motorised as you would do a train, for example. So you can have a train, but it's got to have another feature, and that feature is what is the subject of OcTRAINber. Now it is the 13th of October, and I have made little to no progress in actually building anything. So it's almost halfway through the month. I've had parts arrive to build an entry. But just the sheer technical complexity of what I've been thinking of, and the fact it's so late means I probably will not be putting in an entry this year for OcTRAINber, partly due to the fact that everything's so technically complex, partly because I've not built anything, and it's just a little bit of this, bit of that, and it's just very unlikely that I'll actually get anything finished this side of the end of October. That doesn't necessarily mean I won't build it, and I've had, a few discussions with a few people about what I'd do and so I won't say anything else other than that. There was two options I was considering, one of which is, and I'm not going to go into the specific make or model, or even manufacturer, because I don't know the manufacturer. I think one of which is a rail crane, and the theory behind that was I'd mount I've forgotten now, a B-Wiz. That's it, a B-Wiz in an accompanying car, and then there'd be wires run from that into the crane car underneath, where the couplings would be. And then within the deck, because the deck itself is normally quite deep on rail cranes, wheel it, sort of cable it through there, and then it'd go into some holes underneath the rotating area, where the crane body would actually sit on top of the main derrick, and then it'd go from there into the motors and some lights possibly and that sort of stuff. So it'd have rotation, it'd have the boom raise and lower, and it'd have one of the hooks raise and lower as well. That was the theory. Some of the design work took a while to do, so I've effectively just designed the chassis, or at least some of the chassis. The trouble is that to get it to scale means it's an odd number, and Lego doesn't like odd numbers in their system range, so it didn't work out well. So I'd have to make it slightly bigger and do a few of the tweaks. So yeah, it's all that. The other one was actually a coal tipple, which would take a wagon up to a certain height and then tip it out and then come back empty, which is feasible. It's not to say it isn't, and I do believe other people have done similar stuff, possibly in Lego on a smaller scale. GBC modules certainly come to mind in that sort of application, but nevertheless the complexity with that one isn't necessarily the technical aspect. The trouble is that you've got to attach something to the chain, and then you've also got the problem of the sheer size, because you've got to build those sort of things to a reasonable height, to actually unload and make it worthwhile. So again, that's another aspect which it's just like the combination of complexity, the parts needed, and that sort of stuff. Just effectively, throw that idea out. Possibly until a later date. On better news, I'm actually having to have bricklink orders arrive, which contain a few bits and pieces. So I've been able to do work on certain projects, and those are starting to inch closer towards completion. The main one really is actually this one over here. I'll carefully lift it up because it's been off the track about 2 or 3 times this weekend for work, and it's actually this. This is the electric Steeple Cab. This is based on a General Electric Steeple Cab. This is a fairly generic version. I've actually been doing some tweaks since the last time I've photographed this for Instagram. So it's had a few tweaks. Mostly the fact that it's actually been recoloured into blue. I've changed around the bonnets as well, so they now actually feature, and I'll draw this into the camera, these little vents or doors. So if I hold this with this model, you can actually open these vents like that, or cover doors, so you can actually go inside. And there's two this end, so you can actually get a bit more detail. I've started to put all these clips for the handrails on. There are a few missing of those, hence why there's a gap. The roof's not on properly, which is a perennial problem for the roof because it's specially designed to fit around other bits and pieces of the model. The pantograph is not complete. I need some hooks which originally came in the Pirates range, I think. So I need those to do the pantograph and do a few other bits and tweaks. That one's not on either. Effectively, it's just part swap to get this complete. It does have one 9-volt motor, which is this end here. And it's missing one of the batteries on the underside, so there should be a second one here. You get your polling beam here, your headlights, so you got one there, another one here, your bell. You know, it's a really well detailed model, and effectively it's just waiting for a few bits to arrive and doing some bits and pieces and tweaks. And you know, this is unfortunate, but the roof is really delicate, so I'll see if I can carefully lift this off, like so. And I'll probably knock some bits down. And inside, if I do this carefully, it's even got the control stands and that sort of stuff. So the control stands aren't very well detailed. It's essentially just a lever, a representation of what would be a display, and a little dial. It's not the most accurate of control stands. There would normally be something, if I was in the cab, I'd have a whole stash of dials here, you know, and that'd be against the side of the cab. So, you know, it's not the most accurate of models. I could make it a bit more, you know, believable and realistic in that aspect. But you know, its detail, you'll notice if it is missing, but it's not necessarily detail that is needed, I'll say. You'd notice if something wasn't there, you would notice, but you know, it's minor stuff to get it to a proper level of completion. Moving on to BMR freight cars, those haven't had a lot of updates. I've been able to do some part swaps on the Union Starch tank car. I'll just pull off the rails here. So there's not been a lot done to this. Effectively, it's just been the steps and on the tank as well. They've been done. I've done some part swaps on the bogies. So that is a little bit more close to completion. And as always, I'm short of flex tube for brake rigging and other bits and pieces, so you know, that'll have to stay like that for now. Better news is the gondola front. So those of you who read or have looked on my Facebook page and looked under the notes section will have noticed that there is one for the BMR freight cars, what liveries I'm going to build and what type, if there's any other notes and stuff like that. So in total, I'm actually building 4 of the gondola. There's one in Sheffield Lug sort of branding, which is done, along with the I-beam load. So that's actually been done for a while, and that's actually gone to I think 1 or 2 exhibitions. I think it's just been the one which was the one this year in workshop. It's actually broken out of its little storage nest here and gone out on some travels. The other 3 are Reading, New Haven, and because you can build a Penta version as well, I've built a Penta version. And speaking of the Penta version, this is the Penta version. This is just the body effectively at the moment. There's a few bits and pieces on the underside and on the lowered ends, so you can sort of see that there's actually a lowered end. So this one and which is the Penta version, and the Sheffield lug one will have the lowered ends. I'm not quite sure what load I'm actually going to stick on this one. It might be a vehicle, just for a bit of variety. But the main thing you can tell with these, aside from the underframe detail, is actually the where you'll see there's a little thing here for the brake arm. So unlike the other version, which you can build, I should really know which version it is. Mine's a bit foggy at the moment. That's actually got a brake wheel. The Penta version had a brake lever. So that's the main difference, and that's the easiest way to tell the difference because the sides are virtually identical. So that's the only real way to tell the difference. Moving on to Suburban Coaches. Not a lot has actually happened to this since the last time anyone will have seen it. We've got the side for the two-tone version, which, as it was before, the combine version, which is here, has had the end added here. So I've got the end bit. There's one bit which is the wrong colour, and I haven't done the flooring in here yet. So this is actually loose, and bits it comes off if I'm not careful. So I really need to get a floor in here, so I can, because effectively it's held in by the floor. So it's a bit of a pain, this model, if you handle it wrong. I've also got the ends in, or at least one set of ends in for another bit of a passenger car. Speaking of passenger cars, this is a frame for the side of an open one, so it should be that way round, because where the glass is. So I can actually, I'm making progress towards building some more of these. So the plan was originally to build the two green ones, which I've now done, build two red ones, which are in progress and very slow progress, then build a third one in the two-tone Reading Rambler scheme, I think it is, just because I can. It shows a bit of variety, and it's a bit different. So they're on their way in some respects. I did place a Bricklink order, I think it might have been yesterday, to have some of the Technic bricks required for the offset doors, and a few other bits and pieces. And unfortunately, the seller actually messaged me on Bricklink and sort of said, I don't actually have them in the Technic bricks in dark red. You want to cancel your order, or do you want to go through without them? And sort of said, well, the Technic bricks were the reason I placed the order, so it doesn't really make the order worthwhile having now. So we've mutually agreed to cancel. There wasn't really a lot on that order, so it's no real loss. I'll just have to place another one at some point, and get it a little bit closer to completion. Moving on to events, because that pretty much neatly concludes everything else. I'm probably not going to go to any other LEGO events this year. Obviously, stuff is now winding down. Brick Live at the NEC might be an exception. It depends on if Blocks Magazine want me back on their stand. Obviously, I can bring stuff like the Steeple Cab and other bits and pieces, so it will look a little bit different to last year. And it can be a bit more fully featured. I can even possibly bring some of the warehouse, because that's had a bit of work done to it, certainly in the hard standing area. But the other one really is Warley, and the reason I want to go to Warley is partly because I've never been for years, and partly I want to nose around. If we can get any KDs, O-scale KDs, I'll have a look at those, because I know some people have been using O-scale KDs for their LEGO trains, so I want to try and at least see if I can get a couple of packs of those, see what it looks like, and when they're actually fitted to models, you know, just for comparison's sake, and possibly buy a few models for reference purposes, you know, or dot them around and that sort of stuff. And if it's possible, you know, grab hold of an organiser and sort of say, you know, did you want a sort of possibly static display of Lego Trains Exia, possibly a working one, depending on how fast I can get stuff done. You know, it's all pie in the sky future stuff, but you know, they might have an interest, they might not, who knows. So that's really it for October. In terms of videos, I'm probably going to, if I haven't done one already, I will be doing one on the Stifel Cab, because it's a, you know, a cracking little thing, which is actually, aside from a very loosely based Southern Railway M7 sort of style of tank locomotive, it's actually the only other loco I've built with around a 9-volt motor base. So it will be the first of 3 really that locos that I'm building, or trains that I'm building with a 9-volt motor in mind. And the others are all interurban. It's all interurban stuff. So got an interurban locomotive for freight, and there'll be a couple of passenger or mail cars as well, which will be electrically powered. So that's it really in terms of updates. I'll probably hammer out a brick model railroad freight car update later in the year. Possibly once all these gondolas are complete and you can actually make a little train of them. So that'll look quite nice. But other than that, really, I don't really think there's a lot to go on. I have found some interesting old pictures, so I might make a brief video about that with some possibly narration, possibly just some, you know, text information. And that's essentially it in terms of news. There's not really a lot going on here. It's a bit of a quiet spell during this part of the year. So really that's it, and you know, I'll see you in the next video whenever that is. So that's it now, and see you later.